This tutorial will cover how to read and evaluate search results in academic databases. Imagine you've built a good search that's yielded a fair amount of results, not too many and not too few. Now it's time to dig into those results and find the ones you need. To do that, you'll need to know what you're looking at. So this is how search results look like in an EBSCO database. Other academic databases may have a different layout, but they all tend to provide similar information about the search results. First and foremost, when understanding your results, you should see how many there are. We have the number of results here. This is the number of records that match your search criteria in just this database. Why are these results in the order that they're in? Well, unlike Google, search results and rankings in academic databases aren't personalized. Rather, the results are determined by the search terms you provide and whether or not and how often these terms appear in a record. Most importantly, through subject headings and titles. The database also factors in matches with author-supplied keywords, the abstract, the author's names, and more. Okay, let's talk about how to read these individual records. The biggest challenge is quickly moving through the results to figure out if they're going to be useful for your research or not, and just not getting bogged down. So what here helps us say yes or no? Well, first we have the article title. For instance, here. A good title often indicates the article's subject and its approach to that subject. I'm searching the history of physical therapy in the database Historical Abstracts using the search term physical therapy. A quick glance at these titles shows me that there are some very different approaches to this subject. Some are about specific times like World War I or 1850. Some are about the practice of physical therapy in specific places like Britain. Some are about who received physical therapy like footballers and soldiers. And often articles will be more specific than your initial topic. That's okay. You don't need a source to tell you everything about your topic. It can be just one piece of the puzzle. So it's important to remember what the scope of your research is and to compare it against what these titles provide. Each record also indicates the source type. This icon here indicates that this source is an academic journal. Other source types include dissertations, reports, and periodicals like magazines and newspapers. If your assignments ask for only academic articles, you'd skip past the reports, dissertations, and magazine articles. Another important piece of information is the journal title. Let's look at this first result. It has a pretty busy title, Body-Machine Encounters of the Human and Mechanical and Education Industry in Science. It sounds like this article is covering a lot of ground. It might help me to see what journal it's in. So we have the title here, The History of Education. That clears things up a little. I'm interested in physical therapy's professional practice, not its education. So I'm going to skip past this source. Now here's another title that's hard to parse. On the margins, Therapeutic Massage, Physical Education, and Physical Therapy Defining a Profession. Well, what profession? Okay, so I see that it's in the International Journal of the History of Sport, so I know that whatever else this article is about, it's going to relate to sports, and that might help me decide whether or not it's relevant. Each record also has what's called subject tags. These are supplied by the database itself to categorize articles. Let's take a look. So here we have massage therapy, medical practice, physical therapy, physical education, history, medicalization, World War I, medical care, 20th century history. So now I know, despite the mushy title, that this article is about the intersection of physical therapy, massage therapy, and World War I. Very interesting. The next thing we might look at to evaluate the relevance of a result is the year it was published. Most academic databases are tilted towards articles published in the last 20 to 30 years. There are many cases where a researcher might decide that the most relevant research is that done within a particular time frame, say the last 5 years. For instance, if you were researching climate change, you might know that our understanding of the subject is rapidly evolving and only want research based off of recent climate data and favor those most recent articles. On the other hand, a researcher might purposefully seek out older sources. For instance, if they wanted to know how experts talked about climate change in, say, the 1970s. Finally, some databases like this one and Google Scholar provide citation metrics. We can see that this record reads cited references 44. This means it has been cited by subsequent writers at least 44 times. Below this, another article has been cited 96 times. The number of citations don't necessarily indicate the quality or truth of the article, but if one article has lots of citations, this may signal that it's an important part of the conversation in its field. And if you have two articles about the same subject, and one is widely cited and one is not cited at all, it may be a good idea to start with the article many other scholars have identified as worth talking about. Once you've identified a source that looks good, the next step in evaluating its relevance to your research is not to read the whole thing. Instead, look at the article record itself by clicking on the title. This is where you can read the abstract. An abstract is a brief summary of an article and its findings, and it's the real make-or-break piece of information. If the abstract looks good, it's worth taking the time to read the article itself. So let's look at this one. The American physical therapy profession emerged during and following the First World War as a result of the need for trained providers of therapeutic exercise for the rehabilitation of injured soldiers. My central question focuses on an analysis of how the practice of massage was used in physical therapy and the ways in which massage practitioners and physical therapists interacted and established their respective scope of practice in the first half of the 20th century in the USA. Phew, okay. So this article recounts the emergence of the profession in relationship to World War I and injured soldiers. It's also about the historical role of massage in PT. Now, if I'm only interested in one of these subjects, let's say the relationship between World War I and PT, does this mean that this isn't a good source? After all, the abstract says its main question is about massage. So do I read it? Well, it depends. If you're rich in other relevant sources, you might save this one so you can find it later, but not read it right now. But if you're having trouble finding relevant sources, it may be worth cracking it open. This article may offer valuable information, or at the very least, lead you to more substantial sources about your topic through its citations. All right, let's wrap up. We've covered the kinds of information a database provides for its search results, and some of the ways you can use this information to quickly sift through your results to find what you need. Okay, thank you for listening. And if you'd like to learn more, don't hesitate to get in touch with a librarian.